right. Hello and welcome to today's Local Agency Formation Commission for the County of Alameda. Today's date is Thursday, May 9th, 2024, and the time is 2 p.m. Could we start with a roll pledge of allegiance? Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Could we have a roll call, please?
Chair Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Faria? Absent. Commissioner Haubert?
Present.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Present.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Miley?
Here.
Commissioner Splendorio? Alternate Commissioner Marchand?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Tam? Alternate Commissioner Von Heater Leopold?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Warner?
Here.
Let the record reflect, roll call has been taken and we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Regarding a remote member, could we have some counsel on that?
Yes, Commissioner Hernandez can appear pursuant to the just cause or emergency circumstances exceptions under the Brown Act. She would need to identify the reason that she would be appearing remotely. And in the case of emergency circumstances, that would require approval of the commission. The case of just cause, no commission approval is required. She would also need to disclose if there's anyone over the age of 18 in the room with her.
Good afternoon. I am actually coming in remote this afternoon because I have been sick for the last couple of days and I do not want to cough on you guys. And I do not have anyone over 18 in this room or in this house.
Well, speaking on behalf of the commission, we appreciate you thinking about us, and I hope you get better quickly. Agenda item 3 is a welcome returning new members. Is that a staff report or can I read this out loud?
You may read that out loud.
Okay, the commission will acknowledge the reappointment of regular Commissioner Miley. Welcome back. Yes, it was a long time. You were gone, like never. Seamless. I love it. Seamlessly. And by the Alameda County Board of Supervisors reappointment. Thank you on April 30th. And I'm very proud to return as the Alameda County Mayor's Conference appointment. And as your chair, that meeting took place on April 10th. And there will be an outcome yet to be determined from the Independent Special Districts Selection Commission election, and that takes place on May 8th.
So that out of that
means
one,
that was yesterday.
that was yesterday, and we can welcome back Commissioner Johnson.
Okay.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Any words? Yes, thank you. All right.
A glutton for punishment.
Supervisor Miley, any words?
Just great to be with this illustrious body.
Yes, I know. We are quite an illustrious group. So thank you both for signing up to return. And our next agenda item is public comment. Anyone from the audience may address the commission on matters not listed on this agenda. We do ask speakers to keep to 3 minutes out of respect for keeping the meeting running along. Do I have anybody? I don't have speaker cards. Do we have anyone requesting to speak?
We have one speaker in the audience. Mr. Abreu, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Right, welcome.
Thank you. So the name of this commission is the Local Agency Formation Commission. And I just want to talk a little bit about the concept of a local agency formation commission and take it from like the global, you know, the meta, the broad level, the philosophical, the political science theory kind of thing for it. what is it supposed to be doing? It's supposed to be doing, what does local mean? Well, in this case, it means county, right? Because that's how they set it up, county by county. And theoretically, these LAFCOs should be working on behalf of the residents of the county. Why is that? Why do I bring that up? Well, what we've seen among this LAFCO and probably others, but this one at least, is that there's a new concept that's trying to come in and trying to displace or compete against the LAFCO concept, the conceptual framework. And I call it the mega-regional mindset. The mega-regional mindset brings in this idea that we need to have a metropolitan transportation commission. We need to have an AVA energy, not just East Bay energy, and the AVA energy needs to go out to the Central Valley and serve them. We need to have rail lines that connect, distant other areas to the Silicon Valley, and we need to build those. We need to have a Senate district that combines Antioch with San Leandro. We need to have political redistricting that combines Livermore with Fremont, where half the district is Fremont. By the way, I live in Fremont, and half of my district is represented here, or half of the district is represented with me. So with all this stuff going on, the mega regional mindset, what does that mean? Well, as an Alameda County resident, I'd say, why aren't we paying, what are we doing for our people? And why would we be building a giant parking lot in Dublin Pleasanton to serve the mega regional commuters off the freeway, and when it's not even needed? And when the existing train station is running at 37% capacity last month. 37%, and San Francisco has a low foot traffic by cell phone counts. All these things, the mega regional mindset needs to be questioned, and LAFCO needs to look at itself in the mirror. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your point of view and your sharing your thoughts. Agenda item 5 is consent items. These are considered normally routine in nature. However, if there's anything that should be pulled for further discussion, this is the time to ask for that. All right, seeing none, do we have a motion for consent?
Move approval. I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Because we have a remote member, could we have a roll call, please?
Chair Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Faria. Excuse me, alternate Commissioner Von Heater Leopold.
Aye.
Commissioner Haubert.
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Miley.
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Marchand. Let the record reflect.
I think you've got it backwards.
Excuse me. For Splendorio, alternate Commissioner Marchand. Excuse me, Warner, excuse me, apologies for that.
So aye.
Thank you, sir. Let the record reflect the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 6 is a presentation from the Tri-Valley Conservancy. Would you like to introduce our next speaker?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Brown. Today we decided to kind of provide an update and see what, some of these other good agencies are doing in the region. And we have the chair of the Tri-Valley Conservancy here, Mark Trischka, to provide just a presentation on projects and things that they're working on. It also kind of directly it has influenced some of our past studies and things that we're currently reviewing, like the South Livermore Sewer Extension and our Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Grant project that we received. So it's good to see what you're doing, and it'll influence other projects. So welcome, Mark Trischka, and let me get this started. I'll help you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this one. Okay, great. Well, good afternoon. I think I know several of you on the commission. It's great to be here. I know we've delayed this several times due to more pressing circumstances that you had, but I'm glad to be here today to share with you this presentation. This first slide, first of all, let me introduce myself. Mark Triska. I am a sunsetting commercial real estate broker with Colliers. And I am currently chairing the Tri-Valley Conservancy this year. So Tri-Valley Conservancy is personal to me because I live in South Livermore. I live at Crane Ridge, which is across from the Poppy Ridge Golf Course. Those of you that are familiar with the area. We have a vineyard. We grow grapes for Darcy Kent Vineyards. And we also have a truffle orchard. To the best of my knowledge, it's the only truffle orchard in Alameda County. So South Livermore is very personal, and working with the Tri-Valley Conservancy is personal. So hopefully that'll reflect in my presentation today. This is a great snapshot of what it looked like about 4 weeks ago in the Tri-Valley. A lot of the grasses are turning brown. Maybe that's why from Dublin couldn't make it here today because she's got hay fever, because the hay fever is very prevalent right now in our community. But it's a beautiful place to live, and we want to preserve it that way. So our mission is very simple. It's to promote economically sustainable vineyards and orchards and increase permanently protected, biologically diverse open spaces. Vineyards and open space, not just vineyards, but agriculture and open space. So that's what we're looking to do. And every activity we're involved in is towards this mission. The board of directors is a combination of 12 individuals. Some are appointed by the cities of Pleasanton and Livermore. They're appointed by Friends of the Vineyard and also appointed by Alameda County. And here's a list of our current board members. We're currently absent one board member. As you can see, your member Splendorio is one of our board members. And then we have a fantastic small staff that works very hard to accomplish our objectives. We are currently in the search for a permanent executive director, and we have hired a search company to help us with that. And Victoria Tishy, who's our communications manager, is with me here today. So we are a nonprofit, a 501c3 organization that's headquartered in Livermore. And we currently protect through our conservation easements over 5,000 acres across the Tri-Valley. We have strategic goals that are clustered around three primary objectives. The first one is to safeguard the Tri-Valley urban growth boundaries. We're very involved working with the city of Livermore on the east of Greenville area, and we'll talk more about that later. We're working to achieve critical mass of cultivated lands, and particularly vineyards, since South Livermore is primarily agriculture with vineyards. And then finally, we're working to protect the Tri-Valley rangelands and support the expansion of parks such as the Alameda Tesla Park that is currently under consideration. So our goal has always been to establish a critical mass of 5,000 acres of cultivated agriculture. Unfortunately, we're quite a ways from that. The best numbers we have are that we have 3,350 acres of cultivated ag. We're short, and there's a number of reasons for this, which we'll talk about today. But one of our big efforts is to work with all the local owners and all the vineyard owners, wineries, and other organizations to see what we can do to increase our agricultural footprint in the Tri-Valley and specifically vineyards. So as I said before, the majority of the ag is vineyards, and we've always been historically a wine growing region. I think most of you know that. when the South Livermore Valley Agricultural Area Plan came together, it was a negotiation that occurred with the developers, the cities of Pleasanton and Livermore and Alameda County, to put together a agricultural area in South Livermore. And in order to do that, a number of vineyards had to be planted. So about 1,500 acres of vineyards were put in after 1993. Unfortunately, a lot of these vineyards have currently got to the end of their life cycle, and it's time to start replanting them, which is difficult in today's environment, where in the state of California, it has been said that there's over 50,000 acres of too much vineyards already planted. So we have a number of resources at stake. Again, it's farmland soils, productive agricultural lands in our vineyards. We are working on a conservation plan, and it sounds kind of strange that we as an organization, Tri-Valley organization, wanted to extend the city sewer line into South Livermore. It sounds like a developer move, right? But in reality, to keep our area, in our opinion, based on all the information we have, sustainable, and to preserve groundwater and to do a lot of the things that we need to do to encourage and develop that area, we needed to extend the sewer system. So in November of '92, the citizens of Livermore overwhelmingly, over 2/3 majority, voted to extend the sewer into the South Livermore Valley area. And we appreciate the fact that the county helped us underwrite that to the amount of $6.5 million. But unfortunately, over time, the cost of this project continues to increase. And so we're currently actively raising funds. We're about up to about $8 million right now. We're still searching for about $5 million to complete this project. So in 2020, the Tri-Valley Conservancy hired UC Davis to do an outside study of our region to determine what we needed to do to make our region better, and to work on, why as a wine growing region were we having difficulty, not like Napa and not like Sonoma or areas like Paso Robles. So we hired this group, and there were two professors from UC Davis that wrote the study. And what was nice about bringing them in is they had an outsider's perspective of our wine region, and they compared us to Temecula and Monterey. Those were the two case studies they used. And they said, why are these areas, generally speaking, successful, and why is Livermore struggling? And they came up with a number of findings. First of all, Livermore is a great area to grow grapes. It historically has always been a great area to grow grapes. We got the right soil, we got the right climate, we have water, thank God, even though the price of water continues to escalate. And we have history, we have expertise. The Wente family specifically has been a real helper for some of the smaller wineries to start their activities. We have 7,000 acres where we could plant vineyards if we wanted to, which is great. The trouble is that most of our wineries, even the great small wineries that we have, are tiny, relatively tiny. And we need to get more medium-sized and large-sized wineries like Kincannon and Wente to do business in our area. Just because we have enough grapes to support that, or we want to plant more grapes to support that, we don't have enough demand. So, and then as I said earlier, we have a lot of acreage that has basically gotten to the end of its life cycle. The yields of 4.5 tons the acre are pretty low when a good healthy vineyard is producing 9 or 10 tons per acre. So these are some of the challenges we currently have. So these are some of their findings, some of their key findings, and again is we need to attract larger size wineries, and we have the acreage to do that in Livermore. The smallest 41 wineries combined, unfortunately, only consume 330 acres of vineyards. We've got producing a little over 2,500 acres of vineyards. So, Wente takes the lion's share of that, but we need more demand. Then the other thing that's really lacking in Livermore, and many of you know this that have come to Livermore wine country and toured our wineries, is that we don't have destination places for people to stay or use. We don't have destination restaurants. We don't have a resort. We don't have a lot of the visitor serving retail that you find in places like Napa and Sonoma, if you've ever gone there. So the key reason of extending this sewer line is that we can accommodate a lot of these commercial uses. When the South Livermore Valley Area Plan was first written, it called for 140,000 acres of commercial in the area. And I can tell you, we have less than 10,000. I'm sorry, 140,000 feet, not acres, 140,000 acres of feet of commercial in our area. We have less than 10,000 square feet of commercial in our area today. So we really need to beef up our visitor serving commercial uses. And the way to do that was to extend the sewer line. And then finally, I should mention this as well. Some of our wineries are fantastic and we produce world-class wines. We have some of the smaller wineries that need help. They need expertise and supervision. And so the Tri-Valley Conservancy has hired a winemaker consultant, and we've also hired a viticulturalist to work in the vineyards to ensure better quality. So this again is kind of one of the major findings that we determined is that we really need to establish a greater presence, physical presence in our area, and to do that, the sewer extension was key. So talking about infrastructure improvements, talked about Measure P and the importance of Measure P. Again, it's passed. We're working with the county right now, county staff, to work on ensuring that there are no CEQA issues, and I think it's going to be pretty much an easy pass on that. We're also working on wine quality enhancements, as I mentioned below, with the two consultants we've recently hired. So these, in a nutshell, these 7 items here are our strategic objectives. And the first one is working on the amendments to ECAP and zoning. So ECAP, as it's written, there were some typos in ECAP and people weren't aware of them. We worked very closely with Friends of the Vineyard, with Sierra Club, and with other groups to ensure that these amendments were acceptable to them, and they were. And then we came to the Board of Supervisors and said, would you support it? And the Board of Supervisors said, absolutely, we'll support it. Now we're working with staff to get the right language in place to be able to bring it to the supervisors to get it approved.
Mr. Triska, what is ECAP? I'm not familiar.
East County area plan.
Thank you. Thank you. I know it's something that you refer to frequently.
We have a lot of.
I just want to make sure I understood before you
No, that's
continue.
great.
Thank you.
No, thanks. So, for example, ECAP didn't really spell out and the zoning didn't really spell out the types of uses that we want to see happen in South Livermore. And so we made sure that we put together a significant list of what those uses are. And they're the kind of uses you see in places like Napa and Sonoma. Like I said before, restaurants, visitor serving retail, a resort, things of that nature. So we're actively working on that. And again, we appreciate, we wrote a letter recently to our supervisor, David Halbert, to support this effort. And David, that we got some action going on that. So I appreciate that. We're also working on sewer extension funding. As I discussed earlier, we're about $5 million off on that, but we're actively working on it. And anything LAFCO could do to help us with that is greatly appreciated. We're working, as I mentioned before, with our wine quality, working on our wine quality. So then the east of Greenville, the open space, greenbelts, wildlife corridors, and trail connections. These are all the things that Tri-Valley Conservancy wants to see in that area east of Greenville. And the city is working on their general plan. There's people that don't want to see any growth occur at all in that area. And there's other folks that want to see something happen in terms of expanding industrial. The Tri-Valley Conservancy has always been a kind of a mediator between the parties. We see the benefits of both potentially, as long as we can get these things. We can get open space and green belts and wildlife corridors and trail connections. And so we have a group that's formed. It's called the East of Greenville Committee, and we've got folks from Sierra Club, from Friends of the Vineyard, and we've got our staff and our board involved. And we're talking about these things, actively talking about these things and seeing what we can do to do something like we did with the amendments to ECAP and zoning. In other words, working together towards a common goal. Not simple, not easy, but we're actively working on it. We're working on sponsoring replanting of the vineyards. What does that mean? Well, if you've got an old vineyard and nobody wants your fruit, what are your options? One option is just to pull everything, which a lot of people are doing. The other option is to replant. But would you replant if you're not sure exactly what varietal plant, what's going to be in demand, and who's going to pay for it? So the Tri-Valley Conservancy is actively working with these owners. We put together a financing plan to help finance up to 50% of their replanting of their vineyard. We will make recommendations of what to plant, what varieties to plant. We can't guarantee there's going to be a contract. We don't have control over that, but we're going to do our best to make sure they plant varieties that we think in the future are going to be in demand. We're also looking at a low cost interest loan of around 4%, for example, and financing 50% of that replanting. We've got a pilot program we've put together. We've just sent out letters to the people we have relationships with that have conservation easements on their land to see what their interest is, what the demands out there for. But we want to see the replanting of these vineyards. We don't want them to continue to be fallow. So we're actively working on that. Promoting awareness for the Livermore Valley AVA. How many of you have purchased your uncorked winery tickets, celebration tickets? Nobody's raising their hand. Okay, there's still time. The event is May 16th. It's at the Garay Event Center. And it's going to be great. We're going to celebrate any winery that's got award-winning wines that have showed up and won awards at the Chronicle competition, at the State Fair, at the Alameda County Fair qualify. And so people are going to bring forth their best wines, and we're going to have a competition of the people, rosé and white versus and red, and whoever gets the most votes from the people will win that award. So it's an annual thing that we've done, and we've sold over 250 tickets to date. It's going to be a great event. So if you haven't got your tickets, there's still time. Oh, I forgot. Back. Farm worker housing. Wow, this is a big one. It's interesting that Alameda County, we've done a couple white papers. Our staff at Tri-Valley Conservancy has done a couple white papers on farm worker housing. Interesting to find out that Alameda County is the only county in the Bay Area that doesn't have farm worker housing. Surprising. So we have started a program on this. I know that the Alameda County Agricultural Committee is working on this as well, working together with them on it. But we've done some preliminary work to determine that we could easily house 80 to 100 families in this farm worker housing in Livermore. Now the question is where and how to finance it and who's going to finance it. And there's a lot of complexity in an issue like this, but we've at least started, and we're working on it as we speak. And we've got a subcommittee formed within the TVC, and again, we're working with the Alameda County Agricultural Committee to get this going. We've actually, I believe the Alameda County has got a grant going to work on this specifically. So we're very interested in this as well. This is a new initiative that we just started several months ago. So I'm going to wrap up here with this slide. 30 years, our 30-year anniversary is this year. We've been around for 30 years. And besides promoting and celebrating Livermore Valley wines, which everybody loves to do, we're also working towards solutions for infrastructure. And there's a lot of challenges regarding our wine country that we're working on. Everything from the UC Davis study is our initiatives that we're working on. We're protecting land under conservation easements and completing annual stewardship visits. Our bread and butter is our stewardship visits. We go to the areas where we have conservation easements and make sure that people that have conservation easements on their properties are living to the law. And we do that on an annual basis on each and every property. And then finally, we have a program. I didn't even talk about it in this presentation. We have a tremendous program. It's very popular. It's called Youth in Nature. Would you believe that there are kids in our school districts that have never, ever been on a hike before, a nature hike? And so our program is to make sure that these kids have an opportunity at least once to walk out into the hills where they live and see the beauty of our natural area. And so we have this program. We're working with the local schools on this program. We have 2 youth educators that we finance. We also provide buses, and we work with the schools and the teachers. It's in class and also out of class, but it's a very popular program, and we received a number of grants on that. So that is it. So I'm more than happy to entertain questions anybody has.
Okay, thank you very much. I can tell your passion and the topic. So do we have any questions for Mr. Triska? Yes. Al?
So you've talked a lot about replanting grapes.
Yeah.
Is there any thought due to climate change, you might have to change the variety of grapes in the
Yeah, it's
area?
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. So I don't know how many of you are wine aficionados, but typically Pinot Noir is a grape that's grown in a cooler climate, more coastal, right? Actually, what we're finding out in Livermore is that our temperature is actually going down. Our average temperature is going down with global warming elsewhere, right? We also got a lot of rain these past couple of years, which is unusual. So it's interesting that varieties like Pinot Noir actually are growing on Livermore. I've got Pinot Noir on my vineyard, for example. Yes, some of the varietals will change. We believe right now, as we speak, that Sauvignon Blanc and Cab Franc are the 2 varietals that will continue to be in demand in the near future, and that's what people should replant. We think, and we can't assure anybody or guarantee anybody this, but if they actively replant their vineyards to 1 or 2 of those varietals, we're going to make sure we get enough people doing that to put together a contract with a larger wine organization. It could be an organization outside Livermore.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
We have one question from Commissioner Hernandez.
Thank you.
Yes, I just had a quick question. Congratulations on getting the youth out there and getting them into hike. I think that's an amazing program. Would always like to volunteer if you need to volunteer to go. We just did a hike for Hope at Del Valle, and it was a great turnout. But my question very quickly was for the farm worker housing. When you guys were looking at your studies, is there a reason why they never created any farm worker housing initially to begin with?
The only answer I can come up with is all of the farm workers that work in Livermore come from outside the area. I mean, not all of them, but I'd say probably 90% of them come from outside the area, outside the Tri-Valley, and that primarily the Central Valley is where they're coming from, and that we're an agricultural island. And so these workers come in vans, literally, to our areas, and then they disperse and work, and then they basically get back into the vans and go home every night. It's gotten to the point where we as owners pay the workers when they get on that van and when they get off that van coming home. So it's just because we're an agricultural island, unlike places like Napa and Sonoma and the Central Valley, where you have large blocks of agriculture where there's enough, how should I say it? There's enough area to support a lot of the housing. But there's no reason why we couldn't have farm worker housing in our area. It would help everybody. It'd help the owners as well as the workers.
Did you have another question? I don't want to cut you off.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Hike for Hope, we did it in the rain. I was a little bit behind you, Mayor, and it was a great event, but I too am on the very downhill side of a cold. When, Mr. Tritzka, when you talk about employers, so a big fan of Livermore wine, definitely do my share to support you, but also raised on a vineyard. And it's the seasonal part of this island that you're referring to, Ag Island, that if you need your workers during pruning season and during harvest season, it's that time in the middle that is difficult to employ. So the reason I'm going with that is, have you considered more diversification? I hear lots of discussion about grapevines and vineyards, but as you look for the future for Tri-Valley Conservancy, not just the Tri-Valley Wine Growers Association, is there discussions about diversification of what is planted in these lands?
Yeah, great question, because the soil does support other types of agriculture. My wife insisted that we not plant the entire area with grapes. So we ended up putting in the truffle orchard, which is 900 oak and hazelnut trees. We don't know if we'll ever find truffles, but it's a way of diversifying, right?
You need the pigs, those little pigs that find the truffles.
Dogs, they're dogs, truffle dogs. We actually just acquired one and we're training it right now.
Truffle dog.
Yeah. So yes, the answer is there. If you tour the area, you'll see there are pomegranates being grown. There are pistachios being grown, some almonds. But again, the answer is yes. You can diversify. You can put in other things. Pistachios take 10 years to come into fruition. That's a long time for somebody to invest and wait. When we studied Temecula with the study, we studied Temecula, we studied Monterey, we studied Paso Robles, Napa, Sonoma. There are successful wine areas, and there's no reason why Livermore can't be a successful wine area. Okay. The fact that that we're overplanted with wine grapes is an issue, and that's throughout California, not just here. So yes, and I think the Tri-Valley Conservancy has. Even though we support the wine industry and that's the primary thing we were supporting, I don't think we have any problem with somebody wanting to replant anything they want to replant, as long as there's a market for it.
Okay.
I mean, I know somebody that's doing even lavender right now. So, yes, David.
Supervisor?
Yeah.
No, thanks for the report.
How about your mic?
So do I?
It's
Rain is on?
It's already on.
Oh,
yeah.
because others are,
Sorry.
Usually green's on.
okay. I don't know. I want to put a plug in for Uncorked. I can't be there this year, but it's an amazing event. So if you haven't bought your ticket, I highly recommend you do. A question about the farm worker housing. Does it apply to, is it eligible for example, the cattle industry and the equestrian industry? Are they allowed to participate in farm worker housing?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, Julio Covarrubias, who's on our advisory board, worked for Wente for 50 years. I mean, that guy is really knowledgeable. And he said 80 to 100 families would be not just that's not for transient workers, that's for full-time ag workers in the valley.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's no reason why we could, farm worker housing is not specific only to wine grapes. I mean, that's what we see, but yeah, any kind of ag.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yep.
And I'll just reiterate my commitment, and I think the county's commitment. I can't speak for all of us, but I know that Supervisor President Miley has been supportive of the idea. We're going to find a way to close that gap. The status of that project, from what I can understand and tell, is that it's being transitioned from the planners in the city of Livermore, which really have to be intimately involved, and they are, but over to the county public works team to actually complete that project. And we're going to work hard to close that funding gap. We're committed to it. So thanks for calling it out. Great. And again, wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I actually wasn't done, but I know you raised your hand, so you wanted to talk. I too have a conflict with Uncorked. I've been before, and it's a wonderful event. When we refer to the Tri-Valley here, I know this is an Alameda County event, but we also refer to Danville and San Ramon. So when you refer to Tri-Valley Conservancy, are you referring to all 5 cities or just Pleasanton, Dublin, Livermore?
That's a great question. The work we've done so far has been in those three cities, Dublin, Pleasanton, and Livermore, except for Youth and Nature. Youth and Nature has actually gone into the San Ramon school districts, which is interesting. The Mount Diablo folks, Save Mount Diablo, also oversee those cities of Danville and San Ramon. You know, it's kind of as if somebody came to us saying, we want you to put a conservation easement on a piece of land in San Ramon or a piece of land in Danville, we wouldn't hesitate to offer our services. It's, you know, we just kind of overlap a little bit in those areas, but I don't see why we couldn't. We call ourselves, we originally were called the Livermore Conservancy, South Livermore Conservancy, and because we've actually spread our wings into different areas, now we call ourselves the Tri-Valley. But I don't see why we couldn't.
Okay, excellent. Just two last notes. Lou Asbury is my appointment.
Yes, he's doing a great job.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And lastly, in your definition, you're protecting ag land, open space, wildlife habitat.
Yes.
Is there any, maybe that's not your topic today, but are you still focused on wildlife habitat?
Yeah, so the East of Greenville project is one where these are lands that currently are in the county, and no offense to our supervisors, but they're a mess. They're not properly policed. There's a lot of uses that are illegal that are going on in these area this area. This is the area from Greenville Road to the aqueduct. There's just if you drive out there, you'll see there's a lot of uses that are not that are illegal, like, you know, industrial yards and things like that. We want to ensure that this area that's now being studied absolutely has a wildlife corridor between that goes underneath the freeway and connects North Livermore to South Livermore. The two parcels that the city is currently purchasing in that area will provide a wildlife corridor. We want to see an even greater one. So we're working on these issues. It's interesting that wildlife is a topic that people talk about a lot, but don't witness. But there's a lot of it out there, a lot of it. We see, you know, in Crane Ridge, we see boar, we see deer, we see foxes. There's just a lot of it. There's more rabbits than you can shake a stick at. We have a great rabbit population in that area.
Sounds like
yeah, so we do want to preserve and protect that area, and currently it's not being preserved and protected for wildlife.
Excellent. All right. Thank you for all you do. I know you did a bridge in Sycamore, many others. Let me just see if I have anybody from the public with questions or comments.
We do have one person from the public, Mr. Abreu. You have 3 minutes to speak, sir.
Welcome.
All right. So when you talk about viticulture and different kinds of wine, wine grapes, diversity in viticulture would be useful, because a lot of the areas that are more resilient are not monocultures. They have diverse kinds of grapes or diverse kinds of crops. Now, when he's drawing the comparison to Temecula, no one's ever heard of Temecula, but I've been there. And Temecula is drawing customers. A lot of the customers, the best customers, are coming in from San Diego County, and San Diego County runs on biotech. Likewise, Livermore could think, when they're moving into those empty flat lands east of Livermore, you know, towards Greenville Road, and start developing those empty spaces, they could, you know, move beyond low-value industrial and warehousing and trucks and truck storage and you know, this kind of light industrial stuff, and move and do more high-value R&D and high-tech stuff out there. And because those workers get paid more, and do, you know, anything that there's a lot of workers that are getting paid a lot of money, that's the kind of customers, kind of people you need for a valuable industry. And if you do a lot of warehouses, forget it. And then when there's always in a lot of these projects people are talking about, they always look at the, oh, look, we're looking at the benefits. Well, for example, the sewer. The reason why we have to, look at doing a sewer line is because of nitrogen loading of the aquifer. That might not be the wine industry's fault. It might have been the previous industries that loaded up the aquifer with nitrogen. But there's a problem, and the sewer is designed to address that problem. But there's a real problem. Likewise, when all these crops we're talking about, the pomegranates, what they have in common is they require a stable annual water supply. These are fixed crops. This is not like annual crops like grapes or like hay or onions or tomatoes, where you can pull them out as soon as you have low water. As soon as you don't have any water, you could stop growing. Well, you're always going to be growing the olive trees. You're not going to pull those out. The water supply is at this level is running at 5,000 acre feet per year. But if you expanded your acreage by 50%, then you'd be bumping up against the paper limits of your water supply, when in fact the whole Tri-Valley is not getting enough water, or barely on the edge of getting enough water from the State Water Project. Finally, on behalf of Mission Peak Conservancy, I'd like to say that we support using the South Bay Aqueduct for expanded hiking and biking trails.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Abreu. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chiska. I appreciate your presentation. It was educational, and I look forward to lots of Livermore wines.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Cab Franc and Sauvignon Blanc now. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Would our executive officer please introduce our next agenda item?
Thank you very much, Chair Brown. Our next agenda item will be reviewing our Community Services Municipal Service Review. This is a draft report, and we just want commission feedback and discussion on the draft report. Here today, ahead of initiating a 30-day public review and comment period, and then a final report to be presented at our September meeting. Today we have the consultant who prepared this report, RSG, Jim Simon, as well as Monroe Roche, and then Carol Iromima. Sorry, it was pretty tough. But they're today to provide a presentation on kind of what the MSR consisted of and some consideration for the commission moving forward. So I would like to invite them up here.
All right, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Monroe Roush. I am a senior analyst with RSG, and I've been working closely with staff here to prepare this community services, municipal service review, and sphere of influence update. So we provide consulting services to cities, counties, districts, and commissions throughout California, including the preparation of municipal service reviews for a number of different LAFCOs in the state. We were engaged by staff last year to prepare the community services MSR for Alameda LAFCO. The goal of this review is to gather sufficient data to make two types of determinations or findings as mandated under the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act of 2000, and they are listed on the screen. These findings pertain to the services provided and the sphere of influence for each of the agencies that we reviewed. As you can see, there's a bit of overlap and redundancies between the two sets of determinations. So in the report, you'll see that they're grouped together where it's natural to do so. So we began our work by collecting all relevant public data, particularly regarding demographics and financial statements. So those are the audits for each of the agencies. We conducted interviews with representatives for most of the agencies and have done follow-up where necessary to get clarification on any questions or points of contention. We've shared documents with the agencies and have collaborated with them in order to write this report. We reviewed community services in all 14 incorporated cities in the county, as well as 11 special districts and county service areas, or CSAs. In some cases, these agencies provide other services, for example, fire or law enforcement, fire protection or law enforcement services, and those we did not review. And in many cases, those are reviewed in separate MSRs, which have been prepared and approved by Alameda LAFCO. For the purposes of our report, community services include street maintenance and lighting, parks and recreation, mosquito abatement, vector control, broadband, and library services. So I'm now going to walk through each of the sets of determinations and talk about what we have found. So the first determination is in regards to population growth and housing. We found that the population for cities in the county is expected to grow over the next 5 years, although the rate of housing production is expected to slow. We found that cities are planning for growth appropriately through their housing elements and general plans. All cities have received HCD certification for their 6th round housing element, so good job to the cities, and have submitted their annual progress reports showing how they're doing in meeting their share of regional housing needs. The next determination has to do with social or economic communities of interest. There is one LAFCO identified disadvantaged unincorporated community, or DUC, in the region, which is the Ashland community. Ashland is within the SOI of the city of San Leandro, so it's not within the boundaries of the city, but it is within their sphere of influence. San Leandro is not considering annexation of Ashland at this time, and Ashland receives services, community services, from a number of different service providers, including the county and some of the special districts that we reviewed in this report. So the Hayward Area Recreation and Park District provides park services in this area. Alameda County Mosquito Abatement District provides mosquito abatement. The Vector Control Services District County Service Area provides vector control services, and broadband, like in the rest of the county, is provided by private providers. Street maintenance, lead abatement, and library services are all currently being provided by the county. I will note that there was a library that was operated by the city of San Leandro, but in this area, but it closed during 2020 due to COVID, and the city is still evaluating whether and how that library branch might be able to reopen. Here is a map of the Ashland community. So it is southeast of the boundary of San Leandro. The third determination has to do with the capacity of facilities and adequacy of services that these agencies are currently providing. So I'm going to make some generalizations and then talk about specifics. So in general, what we saw is that the agencies, the cities, and the special districts and CSAs are providing adequate community services to their residents and customers and have the resources to maintain their levels of service given growth demands in the future. The 14 cities are providing services within their boundaries either through staff or through contracts. 3 independent special districts are providing park and recreation services in the county: Livermore Area Recreation and Park District, East Bay Regional Park District, and the Hayward Area Recreation and Park District. The Alameda County Mosquito Abatement District is providing mosquito abatement services, while the Lead Control Services District provides vector control for vectors other than mosquitoes. And the Lead Abatement CSA is providing lead abatement services in Alameda, Berkeley, Emeryville, and Oakland. There are 5 CSAs which are operated by the Alameda County Public Works agencies, and they provide a number of different services, including street maintenance and lighting services to unincorporated areas throughout the county. There are a number of cities, including Albany, Berkeley, Oakland, and San Leandro, which have street systems that have been rated at risk by the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. This means that there are some significant upgrades and repairs that are needed to bring these streets to standards of being operational and safe. And there are definitely significant deferred maintenance costs, which are going to be a challenge for these cities. I also want to note that residents from the Castlewood CSA approached RSG and LAFCO staff during this process to express some concerns about the quality of services generally being provided by the CSA. The Castlewood CSA provides road maintenance, sewer, and water services to over 200 parcels southwest of Pleasanton. And the road maintenance services are provided for private roads. The County Public Works Agency, which administers the CSA, did not engage with RSG and LAFCO throughout this process, but we were able to get some information from publicly available documents. I also want to talk specifically about broadband because I know that that is one of the focuses that that's one of the things that the Commission wanted us to focus on as part of this report. As we all know, broadband services are increasingly important for economic development and interconnectedness in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we looked at data from the California Public Utilities Commission to understand the type of coverage throughout the county. So we saw that while the incorporated cities in general are receiving adequate broadband coverage, unincorporated parts of the county, particularly in the east, are unserved according to 2020 data. There are also parts of Union City, Fremont, and San Leandro that have challenges with broadband access. We talked with the cities about broadband during our interviews with them, and many are working to ensure that broadband services in city facilities are adequate for staff and the public when needed. Some cities are taking additional discretional steps to improve broadband service and accessibility, including creating zones where public Wi-Fi is available, and some cities have taken the step of developing broadband master plans. The fourth determination has to do with the financial ability to provide services. Again, overall, we saw that agencies generally have the capacity to have the financial capacity to provide services to their residents and will continue to do so with growth. But deferred street maintenance costs are a challenge for the 4 cities that I mentioned previously. I also want to note that the Livermore Area Recreation and Park District has expressed interest in revisiting the tax sharing agreement between LARPD and the East Bay Regional Parks District. LARPD has some deferred maintenance for which funding is a challenge, and also takes the position that the share of property taxes being transferred to East Bay Regional Park District is not being sufficiently reinvested in the Livermore community. Beginning in fiscal year 03-04, EBRPD has transferred approximately $200,000 back to LARPD annually for the purpose of supporting ongoing park maintenance projects. The fifth determination is in regards to opportunities for shared facilities. We did only look at community service facilities, as that's what this MSR was focused on. Oakland is currently providing library services to Emeryville and Piedmont, and none of the cities expressed any concern with the agreement that they have. And LARPD and EBRPD collaboratively manage the Brushy Peak Preserve. None of the agencies identified any opportunities for shared community service facilities, and RSG also did not identify any opportunities. I know in one of the prior MSRs, there was some discussion about the Mosquito Abatement District and the Vector Control Services District, and whether they should be sharing services, but staff at both districts expressed that mosquito management and other types of vector management is very distinct, and they are providing very different types of services. The sixth determination is about accountability for community service needs. What we saw is that the agencies are implementing policies to ensure accountability and transparency, such as the use of websites and social media. Alameda, Berkeley, and Oakland have all implemented sunshine ordinances, which require additional transparency regulations on top of the state's Brown Act and Public Records Act. And again, with regards to Livermore Area Recreation and Park District, the district has expressed some concern that the overlapping boundaries between the Livermore Area Recreation Park District and East Bay Regional Park District may lead to some decreased accountability and some service inefficiencies for the residents of Livermore. our final, we are also looking at SOI determinations. Like I mentioned, some of these are pretty repetitive. So in the report, they are grouped together, but just wanted to quickly walk through these. The agencies are anticipating and planning for growth appropriately. And there is some significant agricultural land within the county in Livermore's SOI. Most of this land is for agriculture or is in conservation easements. While the community services being provided to SOI residents is generally adequate, street systems in several cities and their respective SOIs do need upgrades in order to meet demand. And that same finding goes for the present capacity of those services. The one duck within this SOI of San Leandro is generally receiving services from the county and from some of the larger special districts, and it's receiving adequate services. There are also a number of SOI updates, potential SOI updates that came to our attention during this review. The City of Dublin and the City of Livermore are currently working collaboratively to plan for an SOI update regarding a 2-parcel, 187-acre area, which currently sits between the two cities' SOIs. So that's this area outlined in black. The cities jointly sent LAFCO a letter in December of 2023 expressing a desire to work together to propose an SOI update that will link the two communities, maintain open space, and ensure orderly and visually attractive development. The cities are aiming to identify any changes to their respective jurisdictional boundaries by this summer, so we might have an update on that. And while the cities are discussing their goals for that area, we are recommending that LAFCO not make any changes at this time. There are a number of other potential SOI updates that came to our attention during this process. Livermore is seeking to amend its SOI to include 4 parcels located east of North Livermore Avenue. A conditional use permit for a cemetery, mortuary, and funeral home has recently been approved for this area by the Alameda County Board of Supervisors. So we are recommending that staff encourage the City of Livermore and the county to negotiate what a change in SOI might look like, and that LAFCO not make a change to the SOI at this time. Livermore has requested a 3rd amendment to its SOI to align the SOI with the natural topographical boundary of the South Bay Aqueduct. As part of the general plan, the city's general plan update, it began to study potential future non-residential uses in this area in 2023. And the city envisions this area being used for office, life science, and related land uses. The city will likely be approaching LAFCO with an application. And then Livermore is also working with the City of Pleasanton to annex 1 parcel from Pleasanton. The parcel is currently vacant, and there is an application to develop 6 industrial buildings on the parcel. And Livermore actually submitted an application to LAFCO in April of this year. And we are recommending that LAFCO approve this change to both cities' spheres. Staff from both cities are aligned on this area. There are a number of final recommendations or considerations that we have for the commission in moving forward with this report. We recommend that the commission continue to encourage the county to initiate dissolution of the Estuary Bridges, Castro Valley Library, and Dublin Library CSAs. All of these CSAs have a 0 sphere of influence and do not have a funding source, but have not yet been dissolved. We also encourage the commission to further explore the overlapping boundaries between East Bay Regional Parks District and Livermore Area Recreation and Parks District in order to understand whether those overlapping boundaries are leading to decreased service efficiency or any problems with accountability, as well as to further explore the quality of services currently provided by the Castlewood CSA. One of the things that we could do to explore how Castlewood is providing services is to have the commission request a comprehensive report from the county's Public Works Agency in order to ensure service adequacy. I'm available for questions and I'm happy to answer any questions. Like Rachel mentioned, this is a public review draft at this point, and we anticipate having plenty of time to make changes before coming back. So I am happy to hear any questions or thoughts.
Well, I'd love to open that up to the board. So questions, I know we have a speaker. Looks like we have a speaker, correct?
We have two.
Two speakers. Okay, so let's ask some questions. County Supervisor, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, question that you mentioned, East Bay Regional Parks currently transfers around $200,000 to LARPD.
Correct.
How much money do they collect?
So there's a property tax sharing agreement. So I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but it has to do with the property tax exchange. It is significantly more than.
Can you get a copy of that
$200,000.
property tax agreement,
Sure.
sharing agreement? Yeah. And then it's significantly more. Then when they do transfer the money that they transfer, do they just hand it over and then LARPD spends it? Or does East Bay Regional Parks spend that money? And if they do they spend it according to the direction of the tax sharing agreement and in the spirit or the mission of LARPD?
My understanding is that they're just transferring it back to LARPD.
Okay, so they take in a significant amount more than they give back is the highlight on that one.
Yes, but again, because it's through property taxes, it's not necessarily that Livermore, the district itself is handing over money. And also East Bay, of course, is providing regional parks services to the entire county that Livermore residents are able to use. Not to say that it's not a tax sharing agreement that might be able to be renegotiated.
What would be the process for doing that? Would that be one of the recommendations that we can engage you to continue to explore?
It could be a recommendation for LAFCO to facilitate further discussions on that.
Okay.
And that would be the recommendation. Unfortunately, through the revenue tax code, we can't have direct influence on that, but we can help facilitate further discussions on that and reaching an agreement.
Okay, thank you. With regard to the rest of your recommendations, what would be, so Castlewood? I would support a recommendation to continue to explore the efficacy and quality and sufficiency of services. What would that look like?
Yeah, I think that's something that we would work with staff on. We have worked throughout the entire time that we've been working on this report to get some better data about what's happening there.
Yes. So with Castlewood, I think the recommendation that RSG provided was either to contact the Public Works Department to provide the commission a report and a review, or we can go down another line where we further study the district itself to see kind of some governance options or reorganization options for that so that the residents feel that they're receiving adequate services.
Yeah, so to the extent we can do some fact finding is what I'm hearing, not really making any moves, but just understand would be helpful in my opinion. Then lastly, you had some CSAs that have zero funding sources and one of them was the library.
So they have zero sphere of influence. They aren't providing services. The way that those services are being provided has just changed over time. So at this point, the Alameda County has a library department that provides services to unincorporated areas. And then the cities also have their own library departments. So there's not a need for county service areas to also be providing library services.
So in city of Dublin, I believe they contract with Alameda County. Is that a CSA or a contract?
That's a contract.
So it's not a CSA,
Correct.
but we have a CSA. It just doesn't being used. It's not being
Exactly.
used. Oh, all right. Use it or lose it. I get it. Thank you. No other questions.
Other questions, Rob?
So I've got some comments to follow up with Supervisor Hubbard. You know, I worked for the Alameda County Public Works Agency a number of years ago, and I was involved in the initial project to upgrade the water and sewer system in Castlewood. Is the complaint from the homeowners that they're not getting services that they're paying for?
Yes, there are a number of different complaints. So the CSA is considering increasing its rates right now. So that is a concern that the CSA is not providing adequate services as is, and then they're considering raising rates. So the residents are concerned about what their current assessments are being used for. I think there's also some concern about whether the CSA is necessarily the best agency to be providing those services. But I think ultimately the challenge or the issue that the homeowners and the residents there are having are that they are already paying assessments. So why aren't they getting the level of service that they would like to be seeing?
Okay. And then with regard to the three CSAs that you're, the two library ones and the estuary bridges, there's just been a recent change in federal law. It's in the process of doing it. It actually recognizes special districts, which ultimately, if the president would sign it, would mean that special districts would be eligible for earmarks, which they aren't right now. So I would caution the county about eliminating these, especially the estuary bridge, because that's an area that probably could develop federal funding, and the CSA would be a mechanism for accepting that money.
Good comments. Commissioner, Supervisor / Commissioner Tardine? Yes. Oh, yes. Commissioner Warner.
Yeah, a couple of items. I wanted to build on what Commissioner Howard said about the tax sharing agreement. And that I think it is important to understand the basis of it as he was describing. And I would suggest that in the future, when the parties say revise their agreement, that they consider indexing the metrics that drive the amount so that it doesn't go for 20 some years without an adjustment. And we don't want to have to see them come back every year to adjust it. So I believe they should figure out how to auto adjust it when they go through so that we, that there's continuing fairness in the allocations, what I would say. The other thing with respect to LARPD, what's the process for exploring those overlapping boundaries? Or when would that happen or how?
Good. Thank you, Commissioner Warner. So that's something that we'll be reviewing in time for the final report to make further recommendations. Right now, at least in regards to the East Bay Regional Park District and LARPD, if those are the overlapping boundaries, it would be a little difficult since East Bay Regional Park District is a countywide district. So in that sense, I guess that is why that tax sharing agreement, was created. We'll be reviewing other options and speaking to the districts themselves to see what would be the best way moving forward. And that would be at the same time that we're discussing these facilitation with the property tax exchange agreement. But there's a few factors that we want to make sure that we consider just before if we detach or annex those agencies.
Okay, so if I understand it, LAFCO doesn't get into the tax sharing agreements, but these overlapping boundaries are within the purview of LAFCO.
That's
but they're
correct.
somewhat intertwined in the thinking.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's also another reason for LAFCO helping with the understanding of the tax sharing agreement.
Correct.
To be fully informed. So the last thing I wanted to ask about is your determination number 1. I don't know if you can pop that back on the screen. There was what I was having trouble making sure I understood what the answer is there. So the population is expected to grow, but it says although housing production is currently projected to slow.
Yeah,
So you're not saying you're going to have more people per household because it's going the other direction.
Yeah, so these projections are really tough for both housing and population because of the pandemic, and especially in California, we saw a big decrease in population, and then that's kind of been rebounding. So what we're seeing is that the rate of population increase is exceeding the rate of housing in the projections. That said, you know, I know that the cities are under, you know, they've all submitted their housing elements, which identify sites, enough sites for housing as are mandated by the state.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is it's a little, to me, kind of confusing. I think I get it. You're saying the housing production is projected to slow is wrong. Otherwise, you're saying you're going to have more per household or you're going to increase homelessness, right? Because but you're also saying the cities are approaching, you know, meeting the arena numbers, which means there will be more housing. So I'm just trying to say is I would, in the final report, I'd kind of clarify this because the way I read it, you're going to say more people per household for homelessness, and that's not what you're trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. And we can further look into, you know, kind of the mathematical way that those projections are being made.
With respect to that, I was looking at the tables. I didn't look at every city's numbers, but I did look at Livermore's. And on one of your tables, in the housing production for Livermore in the future, you put down only 33 units. But that can't be right.
Yeah, so the city of Livermore has, you know, definitely housing in the pipeline. And again, these projections are something that we're kind of trying to figure out throughout the state how we show.
All of my suggestion is you look at those tables.
For sure.
Because they're not kind of we're not right. I know on some of them. So they need a little more care the next time around.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, Commissioner Marchand.
Moving on down here. Yeah, that's table number 3, the one that he was talking about. As I said, we just accomplished our arena numbers about 3,570 units, and it says that we're projected to add 33.
All right, I thank you for flagging that. I'll take a look.
And also in the same regard, we have, let's see, this is the demographics for the city of Livermore. And it shows that we have 2,800. This is on page 45 of your report, page 100 of the packet. It shows that we have 2,018 businesses and 4,006 employees. I believe Livermore has about 5,600 businesses. And Lawrence Livermore itself has 6,000 employees. Sandy is about 2,000. And I think the school district is another couple of thousand. So there's something strange about that number. Livermore itself is about 460 employees. So that would be 10% of the entire amount in the table. And it also shows that our population in 2028 will grow to roughly what it was in 2020. But again, that conflicts with the data that's in table 3.
I'll definitely look into that business and employment data as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Doesn't this information come from the cities?
No, it comes from a third-party data source. It comes from Esri Business Analyst, which is a company that works very closely with geographic information systems data, and they're able to provide data about, you know, some of these things that DOF isn't necessarily capturing. And part of the reason that we like to use a source like Esri for all of the cities is that so that we make sure that it's standard. But you know, if that data isn't right, then obviously we need to take a second look.
Yeah, the citation is CoStar, and CoStar says that it got it from California Department of Finance.
Yeah.
So I have a suggestion that, this is, I really like the fact that there are a lot of tables here on these numbers. And because it's good to have this in one place, so I like that. I would suggest, though, that you ask each city and jurisdiction to look carefully at these numbers and see if they agree.
Yeah,
as
we
a
can
part of the
definitely.
process,
Yeah, we
because
can definitely do that.
They are closer to the numbers.
Beat me to my punchline. Are you two done? I want to go to Commissioner Hernandez, Mayor and Commissioner.
Yes, and some of my questions have already been answered, but especially the one for the Dublin Library. With regards to the tax share revenue from LARPD and East Bay Regional Parks, when was that agreement done? Do you know the year?
I think that was established in 1992.
Oh, so it wasn't that long ago. Okay, 1992. And it was just agreement by those two parties?
Yes, it was just an agreement between the two districts. I know that I think the staff at Livermore, at least, who were part of that agreement, are no longer with the Parks District.
The only reason why I say that is because I know what our maintenance is for all of our fields and all of our parks, and what they're providing, what East Bay Regional Parks is providing to LAPD is not very much money at all whatsoever. So I don't think it's a fair trade. And then also East Bay Regional Park is supposed to be using those funds to uphold and clean and keep up the maintenance of the other areas they have contracts with. Is that what that money's for?
The $200,000?
No, East Bay Regional Parks, when they get funding from the taxpayers.
They're using it for their facilities, yes.
Yeah, I just mentioned that because I know that in the past, Dublin is doing their own maintenance on Iron Horse Trail. And that's something that East Bay Regional Parks is supposed to be doing. So I just want them to go back to the table and really make it clear on who's doing what, and would like for LARPD to get a little bit more funding, because I know how expensive parks are to maintain, as well as any of the trails and so on.
Yes, and just to clarify, LARPG does have revenue beyond the $200,000. So in 21-22, their general fund revenues were $23 million. But if the property tax sharing agreement was renegotiated, that could be their share of the property tax would just be higher.
All right, thank you. I just had a few questions. When you refer to lead abatement, what is that? Is that a county service?
It is. It's a service that is provided by the lead abatement CSA to 4 cities. So it's provided to Albany, or no, not Albany.
It's Berkeley,
Oakland.
Alameda.
Yes.
Okay.
And I
Alameda, Berkeley, Emeryville, and Oakland. And so the types of services that they're providing are education services about what to do if you have lead paint where you live, helping property owners get educated on how to remediate lead in their homes. They also have some medical staff who are able to do checkups and look out for lead poisoning.
I'm kind of curious why it's only in a few cities instead of the
Want me to
entire
answer that?
county. Would you please? That's why I'm looking at you.
Yeah,
It's like,
so-
you know.
It was set up in the early 1990s. Only 4 cities had pre-1978
Mhm.
homes that had lead paint in them. So only Oakland, Emeryville, Berkeley, and Alameda joined. Unincorporated Alameda County didn't join either. So that's why it just has those 4 cities. If there are other cities, as well as the unincorporated area, that have homes that have lead paint in them, that's one thing I'm interested in, having the authority expand its boundaries, but that would require a vote. And as well as the assessment is only $10 per year. $10 per year.
Yeah, we've got a lot of
$10 per
houses.
year.
Yeah, that's like nothing. Okay, I get it. Yeah. We've got lots of houses that are precede
Really?
1978. So
Okay.
old towns like Livermore and Pleasanton. Okay, thank you. Castlewood, regarding Castlewood and the road maintenance, I know they sometimes contact City of Pleasanton for water and services. On a time and materials basis, we do not supply water services, but they have a homeowners association out there. The homeowners association actually contacted me recently. So is that something to look at for road maintenance? Some HOAs maintain road services, some do not. Do you know what that HOA does for their services? Is it just land or pool, swimming pool, or is it potentially road service?
I think it would be a significant, probably financial burden on the HOA to take on those additional road services. I'm not 100% sure what services the HOA itself is providing. But I don't know that that's something that the residents are necessarily super interested in, but it could be something to explore.
Okay, all right, because sometimes unincorporated areas have aging infrastructure. And just like we cities occasionally have major capital expenditures. All right, and then regarding, I'll just do a comment regarding the parcel between Pleasanton and Livermore. It was in our sphere of influence, but in their urban growth boundary that was voter approved, which is one of the reasons the city council, not just staff, majority agreed to have that transferred. You said staff, so I just want to give it a little more punch because the council voted on it as well. Okay, all right, thank you very much. That's the end of my questions. Please stay. I have some public comments.
Okay.
So I'm going to open up the public comment period, and if you could introduce our speakers.
Sure. There are 2 public comments in the audience. The first speaker is Mr. David. Is it first? Sir, you have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. This is, yep, it's on. First of all, thank you for taking your time to take my comments. The meeting has gone fairly long and I appreciate the time. My name is David First. I'm currently the chair of the board and of the board of directors of the Livermore Area Recreation and Park District. I want to first of all thank LAFCO and the consultants for their conducting the municipal service review. And we look forward to working with them and getting a detailed and accurate analysis of our park district and obviously a positive outcome. Our staff has already made detailed comments and corrections to the first draft, and we hope these have been taken into account. We're now expecting and looking forward to having the opportunity to work with LAFCO and the consultants to review the revised draft agreement. Specifically, Supervisor Halbert, you asked a question about how much money East Bay Regional receives. They receive an increasing amount every year. It's currently approximately $7 million a year. The amount of money that they return back to us is $200,000 and has not changed in approximately since the beginning of the agreement. In order to revise this agreement with East Bay, both parties have to agree to revise it, and East Bay basically has said no. If I may make one more comment, yes. East Bay has taken the opportunity or taken the responsibility of regional parks, as was pointed out, and also regional trails. There's now a new regional trail that goes from Sycamore Grove to Del Val. It goes across the Ed Campbell Bridge. That's part of a regional trail. The Ed Campbell Bridge costs $1.2 million. East Bay gets $7 million a year, and they decided to contribute $150,000. It was, to my mind, there is total responsibility for paying for the 1.2 million, and they basically said 150,000. So our position is that we are not getting adequate response, and the citizens of the Livermore area are not getting adequate return for the funding and the property tax that they are giving to East Bay Regional. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. First. Our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Mr. Brio. Mr. Brio, you have 3 minutes to speak, sir.
Okay, so this report is said to provide very useful oversight for municipal services, but somehow the unincorporated Alameda County is flying under the radar and has no oversight in this report. It doesn't appear on page 22 of the report, page 77 of the packet. We have nothing. You know, it's 150. This is the fourth or fifth largest inhabited area, urban area in the county with 150,000 residents, many of whom may not be as well off as the people of Castlewood, and they're not being represented here in your report. That's for very deliberately, I'm sure. Now let's talk about Castlewood. You know, the political representation there. You notice how they run under homeowners, and they deliberately don't have a municipal advisory council in Castlewood. So that's, you know, what's good for the goose is not good for the gander in Castlewood. They don't want to have municipal advisory council, but they want to have city services. Let's talk about LARPD. You know, I live in Fremont. In Fremont, I pay, I don't know, everybody, one way or another, we're paying property taxes for EBRPD. We're paying property taxes for the city parks. We're paying property taxes for the city recreation. And we don't get any rebates from park districts, EBRPD. We don't get rebates. We don't feel entitled to rebates from them, but they took over us right at the beginning of their, or not at the beginning, but, very early on. Livermore was annexed later. When the park district was expanding, Livermore was somehow able to avoid full taxation, and that's why we're getting into these boundary disputes and why the Livermore expectation. Livermore has this feeling about that it's like an independent lone wolf, self-reliant, self-sufficient mindset, in where, what the money that we pay in Livermore should stay in Livermore, unlike Fremont, where the money we pay in Fremont we pay double, and it all goes to Oakland EBRPD. The street systems that provide multiple benefits. The Alameda County Public Works Agency doesn't provide sidewalks for dense suburban neighborhoods like Castro Valley. And sidewalks are unfashionable in high-end estates like Montclair in Oakland. Some of you may know Montclair, but Castlewood and Blackhawk, they don't want sidewalks. These are multi-use facilities, though. The Alameda County Public Works Agency likes to give away remote rural roads. Like at the end of it's like a little capillary system. At the end, the remote road, they give it away to the private landowner. Those are very valuable facilities as recreation trails. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other speakers?
We have one more speaker, Mr. Rick Hummel. You have 3 minutes to speak, sir.
First of all, let me apologize for being here late. For whatever reason, we had the meeting starting at 4 o'clock, not at 2 o'clock. And I understand there was an extended conversation with regarding to what I'm going to bring up right now. I'm the president of the Castlewood Property Owners Association, and we're here to express our concern about the role that the Alameda County Public Works plays in the maintaining of our county service area. That was formed in 1967. We have just learned from the county that there will be a significant increase in the costs of maintaining our sewer and water over the next 2 years. One of the things that concerns us in Castlewood is that with the property taxes that we pay and the homeowners are buying new homes every year, we're having a rapid turnover, is none of those property tax funds come back into the Castlewood Property Owners Association. So in essence, what it costs a normal area for water sewer services, we're paying almost double what that is. Not only the water services that we pay normally, but also the services that the county is recommending. So for this reason, we're asking for an alternative to the county managing of the Castlewood service area, and finding a way that would allow us to recapture a number of the dollars that go into the property taxes for our community and bring them back into our community to function to repair the roads, the sewer, and the water and maintain them. Thank you very much.
Could I ask you a question?
Sure,
Since
you
you're
may.
a speaker for HOA, and I'm looking forward to meeting with you later. The homeowners association, does it have any responsibility for common areas there within the?
Does it have any?
So any responsibility, financial responsibility, roads, infrastructure, anything in your dues that your residents are paying towards the
The
homeowners
residents,
association?
we have, well, first of all, let me make a comment. Due to COVID and due to other issues that occurred, there's been a lack of leadership within the homeowners association for the last 3 years. I took over last year as president, and we started to uncover the situation as we see it now. Historically, there have been relatively low dues payments into the homeowners association. That has changed this year in that we're slowly escalating the dues each quarter to try to bring up more money to cover some of the costs. Not only the costs, though, that the county is already billing us on our tax roll, but also the costs that we are paying for out of our own pocket. It is not significant, let me just put it that way.
And it does not maintain roads. It does not maintain sidewalks or drainage or anything like that.
There is no sidewalks in Castlewood at all, as the previous speaker had mentioned. It does supposedly help offset the cost of whatever the county is not recouping in their charges back to the homeowners.
I see. Okay. All right. Any other questions of the speaker?
Have you scheduled time with the LAFCO staff?
We
Or
do. We
RSG?
have a meeting on a week from Friday with Rachel, I believe.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes. May 24th.
May
correct?
24th.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time.
Sorry,
Yes,
one
sir.
more.
So speaking as someone who lives in the unincorporated community of Castro Valley, your desire to have some of the property tax share is never, I mean, I'll look at my two supervisors here. It's not possible to share that money. Just like in Castro Valley, we don't get any share of the property taxes either. We have special districts that provide all of our services,
We understand
just like
that.
you do, and we pay for them.
And that's why we're looking for LAFCO as an option to be considered as a way to recoup some of those monies.
Okay, well, good luck with that.
I've been told that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming today.
Okay, thank you.
Is that our last speaker?
That's our last speaker, Chair.
All right, I'll close the public hearing, and LAFCO is recommending the draft be presented for discussion and feedback and review for a comment period and returning to the commission on September 12th for final action. Okay, our next agenda item 8, Executive Officer.
Thank you, Chair. So this item, This item is for the commission to consider adopting its final budget and work plan for the next fiscal year, 2024 to 2025. The final budget and work plan remains intact from its initial viewing in its initial draft form. And the final budget expenses, they total to $818,538. And that's just a 4.3% increase or $33,798 from the current fiscal year. We also see about a slight 3% increase in the total agency apportionments from our funding agencies. But overall, the final budget is intact, and staff asks for the commission to adopt the attached resolution approving the final budget and work plan for 2024-2025 and discuss with the commission any desired changes.
Any questions? Seeing none, do we have a public speaker?
We do not.
Okay, all right, I'll bring it back to the commission for either closing comments or a motion.
Motion to accept the staff recommendation and adopt the attached resolution approving the final budget and work plan for 2024-2025.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, this side of the table is up on their motions and seconds. Since we have a remote member, could you take a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair. Chair Brown.
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Von Heater Leopold.
Aye.
Commissioner Haubert.
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Miley,
Yes.
alternate Commissioner Warner.
Yes.
Let the record reflect the motion passes.
All right, thank you. Our next agenda item is matters initiated by members of the commission. Do we have any matters? Yes, Georgine.
I have a comment more than anything. As I sat and listened to all the corrections and changes that needed to be made to this MSR, it brought up a very painful experience in the city of Dublin Incorporated. The city, well, actually the county hired Hughes Heiss, a firm out of Palo Alto, to do the feasibility study. And the very same thing happened. All of the numbers were from God knows where. They certainly weren't from Dublin San Ramon Services District or the city as it was proposed. And I'd like to make a comment that in the future, if there's some way in the agreements with these contractors, and I'm sorry they left, if we could include something that says they have to verify these numbers with the entities that exist. I mean, his population numbers are ridiculous. And I'm sure if I was to look closely at the Dublin numbers, they're probably off too. And that shouldn't be because, as our speaker said, people rely on these reports. And every single report we see, something came from God knows who that doesn't even live here and doesn't know anything about us. And the number is from left field. So I don't know how we could incorporate that in the future agreements. But this, to me, it's very frustrating to live here 40 years and still see it going on. And I know it's common practice. I'm not blaming staff. But what I'm saying is we have to take on the responsibility to make sure these things don't happen because they become, written in stone and they're wrong.
Trust,
I'll
but
get off
verify.
my soapbox. I'm sorry.
No, I think you heard it from many members of this commission. Is there some way to have a verification or second verification for this kind of data?
Well, yes, we do have an administrative review period for all of the cities and agencies to provide comments to make sure that we have the correct information.
That's 30 days or 60 days?
It was before this draft
before
report.
this happened. Okay.
So, and cities did provide their comments. So I don't know how they missed their own tables as well, but we will make sure to heavily have the cities follow up and make sure that they really check the numbers and the tables in the future.
Yeah, if the city signs a document, that's one way to make sure, because I know for our city staff, if you give us 3 days to prove something, it's not going to be happening.
It's not going to happen.
You need a significant amount of time, so they should be verified. So, okay, message made. I'm going to bring up and
Melissa has her hand up.
okay. Well, I usually do what's in the room first, but you're right.
Okay.
I'm as a chair, I did jump. So we heard a request from Tri-Valley Conservancy for any support from LAFCO. And I wondered what that kind of support could be. Do we have a budget that would support an item like the extension of the sewer system? Or is this something that's ever been done before?
From my history with this commission, no, it has not been done before, but that is something that staff could definitely follow up on to clarify exactly what type of support the Tri-Valley Conservancy would like from LAFCO. And I think the chair was referring to the sewer extension project.
The chair was referring to the sewer extension project. Is there support for that to come back? I see heads nodding, so I guess I've got a majority here. Okay, all right, if you wouldn't mind for a future agenda item. I don't see your hand raised. Commissioner Hernandez?
No, I'm good. Thank you for watching out for me, Georgine.
What about Melissa? Okay, all right. That was matters initiated. We have an executive officer's report next.
No report from the executive officer today.
Okay, we have some information items, current and pending proposals progress report for the 2023 work plan and Cal LAFCO's workshop were all included in our staff packet.
Yes, so thank you so much, Chair. Just wanted to report back that Alameda LAFCO, we hosted our, I forget what year, but this year's staff workshop in Pleasanton. It was at the Doubletree. It was great. We hosted also a great mobile workshop in partnership with Wente Vineyards. I heard from a lot of staff members that this was one of the best workshops that they ever attended, as well as the mobile workshop. Great turnout. Everyone is, I think they're even considering having Alameda host, future staff workshops for Alameda County to be kind of the mainstay. That's still in the works, but a lot of people enjoyed it. And we also received this award from Cal LAFCO for a nice plaque for hosting. So just wanted to share that with you. And thank you for your contribution.
Yeah, I know I was a speaker and I know others were as well. So
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I attended the mobile workshop and I have to say, and I know all of you have heard him speak before, but for the record, Carl Wente is full of, and he could teach a class. I'm sure he does.
I bet he could.
I mean, oh my gosh, I couldn't keep notes fast enough. The man's a genius. We've got to help him save the Livermore Valley.
No, I believe
Is that a motion?
Yeah. I'm trying. Wait a minute, that was my matters initiated in part, yeah.
So I have to say the morning wine tasting was a hit too.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Oh, I missed that
Actually,
part.
I found a wine that I kind of like, and I hate to say that here, but I'm not really a wine drinker. And some of you know why I got hepatitis from a blood transfusion when my daughter was born. And so consequently, I've never been a drinker, but I found one I liked that morning.
Well, just moderation. I know Commissioner Hernandez spoke. I think Commissioner Halbert spoke. So you had many contributors. So we're very proud to be a part of that program. Thank you. Agenda item 12, it's appoint an agency representative designation.
So thank you, Chair. From the advice of council, we don't have to appoint Commissioner Warner since he was the agency representative from our last meeting. So he's just listed for the next item for the closed session, but he will be our agency designated representative going into the closed session.
For life now. Yeah, okay, sounds good. All right, we're going to adjourn to closed session for conference with our labor negotiators. And as stated, agency designated representative will be Commissioner Warner. All right, welcome to the Alameda County LAFCO. We are out of closed session and back into open session for agenda item 14. Apparently we're not doing a report out closed session.
There's nothing to report out from closed session.
Excellent, thank you. Agenda item 14 is a memorandum of understanding with an extension for the County of Alameda. Staff?
Thank you, Chair. So basically, the county has agreed to extend the current MOU agreement for 6 months and then have 6 additional 1-month extensions. So staff is requesting, ahead of the MOU deadline, which is June 30th of this year. And given that we want to explore some options of our independence and conduct a study to agree to extend this, the terms of the MOU and agree with the 6 months extension. And because the Board of Supervisors hasn't reviewed this yet or approved it, to delegate for the executive officer to sign off on those terms.
Right. Question? Approval. Just open to the public. Do we have anybody on the public?
I don't.
Okay, thank you.
No, I don't see any.
We've got a motion. This is from the committee. 1 second. Thank you. We take a vote and you should have some people remote.
Sure. Chair Brown,
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Von Heater Leopold,
Aye.
Commissioner Hobart,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez? Okay. That's okay. We lost her, I think. Commissioner Johnson?
Hi.
Commissioner Miley?
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Warner?
Yes, assuming Splin doesn't come back, then he's got to ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost her. Actually, John was be the alternate for Melissa. She's not coming back.
Okay, hold.
Yes, let the record reflect, the motion does pass. Did you want me to call on some?
Splin raised his hand.
Oh, he did? Okay, I will, Commissioner Splendorio on that.
All right, I
Item
vote,
14, extension of MOU with the county of Alameda.
I'll vote aye.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Yes, he's
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Warner, did you make the second on that?
Yeah, so that's, we're gonna change.
That, so someone else needs to be the second.
I'll move to
Thank
second.
Okay, all right, motion's made and passed. And this is our last agenda item, so this meeting is adjourned.